Hello there, kiddos. It is I, Dr. Stinky Steiner, and today it will be me who is introducing the M and the W. Oh, yes, the message and the worship. However, as always, we will start with the worship. So, Miss Carrie, do the thing that you do where you tell the kids it is ready to sing and dance, okay? Have fun, kiddos.
Hey kiddos! Oh my goodness, did you guys look amazing yesterday at Trunk or Treat? Those of you who came, you were phenomenal, and I'm sure you're just now maybe coming down off of your sugar high, maybe? But I'm hoping that maybe you have a little bit left because it's worship time. This is time to just get all that sugar energy out, friends. We've got Your Love is Greater. This is from VBS, remember with the dinosaurs? Love it, you guys. The truths in these songs are mind-blowing. His love truly is greater than anything. All right, here comes Your Love is Greater.
I've been wondering for so long on this journey, waiting for something to come along, yeah. Then you showed me a love that I've never known. Now I know I'm not alone, yeah. I don't have to be afraid, 'cause your love has made me brave. Now I stand tall knowing that your love won't let me fall. You go before me every day, yeah. Your word is a lamp to my feet, a light unto my path. On this adventure, I feel His faith, yeah. I don't have to be afraid, 'cause your love has made me brave. Dance.
All right, you guys, I know there's a lot about Halloween that can feel kind of scary. Do you see some scariness? I know, it's kind of the part of Halloween that isn't my favorite, but you know what? We've got a song. We've got a song that's all about not worrying. We've got a song about how we can just cast all of our cares on God, no matter what kind of things come into our lives that kind of feel, you know, that little scary feeling that we get. We get to talk to God about it. He loves to hear about it, and He loves to be able to remind us that we don't have to worry, that He's got us. All right, so, and this is a super fun song. So here it comes. Don't worry, guys. Just sing Don't Worry.
Sometimes my mind is my own worst enemy. Sometimes my eyes trust only what they see. But have you ever run out of faithfulness? Have I ever needed more and gotten less? No, you always come through, so I won't worry what tomorrow brings. Your love's got a hold on me, and you won't let go. Through the highs and the lows, I won't worry what may come my way, 'cause I believe every word you say. I'll never have to be afraid, 'cause you got me. I won't worry. Take all my fears and my anxiety. I know you're here, and you know just what I need. I'll never run out of your promises. I've never needed more and gotten less. No, you always come through, so I won't worry what tomorrow brings. Your love's got a hold on me, and you won't let go. Through the highs and the lows, I won't worry what may come my way, 'cause I believe every word you say. I'll never have to be afraid, 'cause you got me. I won't. My heart, my mind, all of my life, you know the real me. Take all control with you, I know I don't have to worry. The birds of the air are flying high. Don't ever care, so why should I? You're always by my side. I won't worry what tomorrow brings. Yeah. Ooh, you got a hold on me, so I won't worry what may come my way, 'cause I believe every word you say. I never have to be afraid, 'cause you got me. I won't worry. No, I won't worry. Oh, yeah, I won't.
Oh, sweet Susie, I tell you something. I am exhausted because the worship, it really takes it out of me. Thank you, Miss Carrie. As always, you and your team are the best. Now, kiddos, it is time for us to continue our journey through the Bible with Mr. Ryan teaching us about the next book. The book is called Judges.
All right, kids, last week Miss Carrie broke it down for you. She looked at the book of Joshua and saw how the Israelites were led by Joshua into the land that God promised them. And she talked about how there was battles and wars and it didn't all go incredibly smoothly, but now the Israelites, which are the descendants of Abraham, this family tree has grown into a very, very, very big family tree, and now God has them in the promised land. Now, the book of Joshua is a book about battles and wars as they move through the promised land. But it ends with Joshua, the leader of the Israelites, saying something very, very, very important to the Israelites. I'm going to read you what it says at the very end of the book of Joshua. In Joshua chapter 24, after he's basically helped them conquer the majority of the promised land, Joshua looks at the Israelites and he says to them, he says, "So I want you to have a respectful fear of the Lord, and I want you to serve him wholeheartedly. You should put away the idols that your ancestors used to worship when they lived beyond the Euphrates River in Egypt." He says, serve the Lord alone. Don't serve any other gods. Don't worship any other gods. Serve the one true God alone. He says, but if you do refuse to serve the Lord, then you should choose today whom you are going to serve. And he says, would you prefer to serve the gods that your ancestors served way back when? The God, this is some made-up God that your ancestors used to serve. Haven't you seen what the one true God has done to not only save you from the famine in the story of Joseph, but to get you out of Egypt and to feed you in the wilderness and to lead you into the promised land? Or would you rather worship the made-up gods that you had way, way back in the day? He says, or would you like to worship the gods of the Amorite people in the land that you now live? Because the Amorites were a different group of people and they made up their own gods as well, but it's your God, the one true God, that has led you to this place in this land, who has cared for you and taken care of you in miraculous ways time and time again. He says you need to make up your mind who you are going to serve. Is it going to be the one true God, or are you going to make the mistake that you so often made in the past, and the people in the land that you now live in, that the mistake they made? Are you going to make up fake gods and worship them? He says you need to make that decision, but he says, as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And that is how Joshua ends. And from the book of Joshua, we go into a book called Judges. Judges is another kind of crazy book. Let's just say that Judges is a book with a lot of stories that I honestly don't feel comfortable reading to little kids, because the things in it they're like rated R. Like movies that your parents like, you're not watching that movie. The book of Judges has some stories that are seriously crazy. But what I can do is help you understand the overall heart or the overall lesson of the book of Judges. Now, kids, to do that, we're going to go ahead and transition this way. Let's see if we can do this in live time. We're going to go to the whiteboard. I think maybe that, let me make sure. Does that work? Yeah, that works for me. Okay, so listen, to understand what happens in the book of Judges, we need to look at this picture. Now, some of you guys are like, what is that, like a seashell or something? No, it is a spiral. It is a repeating cycle spiral that goes downward and downward and downward. Things just keep repeating and keep getting worse. Now, why is the book called the book of Judges? Because before the Israelites had kings, which we're going to find out later on, we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks about the kings of Israel, people like King David and King Saul and King Solomon. Before God gave them kings, he anointed, or he empowered men and women to be judges over the area. Basically, when we think of judges, you can't think of the people that go, guilty, get out of my courtroom. These are more like tribal leaders, people that kind of in times of need could lead the Israelites. Now, the stories of the judges, like I said earlier, are stories I can't really get into, but here's what I can tell you. There was a number of judges, a number of them that came up at different times when the Israelites found themselves in bad situations. What I want to do is help you understand how the Israelites found themselves in bad situations so long. Because if you remember, there's a promise or a covenant that God made with the Israelites. He said, listen, if you are faithful to serve me and serve me alone, I will take care of you. Now this is the problem that we see. Remember how the end of the book of Joshua, Joshua said, choose who you're going to serve and obey. Are you going to serve and obey God, or are you going to make up fake gods and worship them? Turns out that time and time and time again, the Israelites made the same mistake. They would turn from God and start making up fake gods and worshiping them. So this cycle, I saw this on a really cool YouTube video. It basically breaks it down like this. It says, you start with this problem of sin, that the Israelites turn from God, and it goes this way. And what ends up happening is that God allows some of the other people to come in, some of the other groups of people like the Ammonites or the Canaanites to come in and oppress them. That's a big fancy word that means make their lives really, really, really difficult. So what happens is that after some time of oppression and things get bad, the Israelites go, oh no, God, I'm so sorry. And they do this thing called repentance, which means they turn from their evil ways and they say, God, we're sorry, we made a mistake. And what happens after that is that God, because he loves his people and because God has a plan for his people, he delivers them. So you get this thing called deliverance, where he sends a judge to rescue them from whatever horrible situation they're in. Now these judges include people like Gideon or Deborah, or let's see, there's a guy named Ehud who's a left-handed assassin. There's another guy, well, you guys have heard of Samson, right? There's a lot of judges in these stories, and each and every one of them God sends to deliver them. And what happens after deliverance is you get a time of peace. So it starts with sin, then they get kind of bullied by the big bad people around them. Then they go, God, we're sorry, and God says, okay, I'll deliver you. And thank goodness things are good. There's peace. But then before long, they find themselves sinning again. And this is how this book goes over and over and over again. But unfortunately, what happens is that the more that this cycle repeats itself, it seems like the worse things get. And by the end of the book of Judges, there's some stuff happening that you're like, this is horrible. This is horrible. What is wrong with the Israelites? They've become just like all these other wicked, evil nations that don't know about God. And see, that's one of the biggest tragedies you see in the book of Judges, is how quickly these people who have been shown God and his goodness and his faithfulness, how quickly they can turn from God and find themselves doing things that you can't even imagine. These things that you read about in these stories, these aren't things that God is happy about. These aren't things that God's like, okay, that's good. God is absolutely disgusted by it. Disgusted. But if you remember, God has a plan. It's through this nation, the Israelites, that eventually he's going to bring Jesus. And eventually Jesus is going to be this good news for everyone, because Jesus is going to be he's going to pay the price of sin for everyone. It's by dying on the cross that Jesus will be good news to all nations. And it has to come through this group of people, which is why even though they keep sinning and getting oppressed and then saying, I'm sorry, he continuously delivers them, because God has a plan. And even the wickedness and the repeated mistakes of the Israelites can't derail God's plan. Here's the deal. The book of Judges ends in a very, very dark place. But what happens is that there's this line at the end of it. And again, I saw this in a really cool, there's a YouTube video you guys should watch called The Bible Project. It's really, really well done. And on this Bible Project, it says at the end, it says that you see this line repeated over and over at the end of Judges, actually a couple times at the end of Judges. It says that at this point, the Israelites had no king, and that every man did what they thought was right in their own eyes. And as we see at the end of the book of Judges, there's some really bad stuff that is going on. There's some really bad stuff that men thought was right in their own eyes. But what we're going to see in the next few books is how God works from this place to bring about some kings. And trust me when I say this, the kings are not the solution. The only solution is the one true king, Jesus. But we're seeing how this story moves forward. Kids, I hope that you understand how we've gotten from the idea of sin to God showing the destruction of sin, God choosing Abraham to have this family that he would one day use to bless the entire world, and how this family is moving along, and how this family is showing that sin is still a problem, but it's all pointing to the solution of sin. The one thing that solves this sin problem, and that is Jesus. Kids, I'm going to stop before I have any more brain farts, because I'm apparently struggling to say words well, but I hope that you guys got something out of this. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you later.
Oh my goodness! You know, kiddos, I am a doctor, which means I have a very big brain. However, after that, my brain is nearly filled to capacity. That means it's basically overflowing. So much good information. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Kiddos, Dr. Stinky Steiner loves to come, loves to be a part of the fun, so thank you for allowing me. I will be back sometime soon, but for now, I must say bye-bye, kiddos.